Hello, welcome. I don't know why I said welcome. So I just thought I'd do this. I don't really do these a lot. Um, anyways, just finishing up some laundry and watching, rewatching. I have no idea how many times I've seen this. Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Originally, I was looking for a different movie, but the movie I really wanted, which was Rope, which is my all-time favorite Hitchcock flick. Um, but I didn't want to pay for it, and you couldn't watch it. There was no way to watch it for free. It's not like Psycho is like, oh no, I had to settle for Psycho. No, nothing like that. It's just earlier, my better half and I were talking about Hitchcock flicks. There's a house in the area where we live that sort of reminds her of the house from Rebecca, which was Hitch's first American film. But which is probably her favorite movie that Hitchcock made. A little background. We met, I work in theme parks. Technically, so does she. It's just she's in IT, so totally separate now. And we originally met when we were both working in attractions at a show called Alfred Hitchcock and the Art of Making Movies, where we were both spielers. And, like everyone there, the majority of the folks who worked with us, you learn a lot about Hitch and about film in general. I'd already, because she had studied a little bit about film, and I went to film school. I know that probably doesn't show when you look at my TikToks, but I did indeed. And, you watch enough movies, especially if you watch enough of one person's movies, you develop a favorite. And one of the things we were talking about as I drove her to work this evening was you could probably individually find other directors who could do each individual Hitchcock film, because his career spanned 50 years, and in which he made 53 pictures, 3 comedies, 3 horror films, But the rest, all suspense, and the rest were usually his favorite subject was wrong man accused. But somebody always dies. But they're not all. People have this misconception that he was a horror director. Like I said, he only did 3 legit horror films, like Psycho, which is the one I'm watching now, The Birds, and Frenzy. There's a couple others you could argue, but really and truly, just those 3. And then he did a couple of comedies, Family Plot, and Trouble with Harry. We start with a guy that nobody likes, and everybody has a reason to kill, and he is dead, right? And people keep finding the body, and they know they didn't kill him, but they have someone that they suspect and that they want to protect. I honestly have not seen Family Plot. That's one I haven't gotten around to. I could IMDb what it's really about, but that's one of his comedies. I don't know too many others, but the majority, all of them, even his comedies, are suspense films. You could argue most of them are thrillers of some kind. And the majority of them involve, with the exception of Rebecca, the wrong man accused. The wrong man accused, simply something happens. We have one person who's accused of that crime, and the rest of the movie they're trying to prove that they didn't do it. Or like in Rear Window, trying to prove that something actually did happen, right? North by Northwest, we're trying to get away from the bad guy spies and away from all this nonsense and back to our lives. So The Lodger, even though that it does involve the serial killer, that's not really what the movie's about. What the movie is about is a gentleman who everybody suspects, but they're not the killer. That's one of the ones I say you could argue it could kind of, but if you really watch it, it never really veers into that. But yeah, so what our topic was we both agreed, you couldn't find a director other than Hitch who could do all 53 of his 53 films. You could maybe find directors who could do individual movies. The only thing is a lot of the guys who we were thinking of would not have been around. Very few of the people we thought about were people who were influenced in some way, even if it's just the way he would often use the camera as a character. So then there's certain directors who use that as a signature. like, yeah, there are people like, say, De Palma, that you can go, oh, he is certainly it. But there are definitely directors who don't ape or do movies that are similar to Hitchcock's, that when you really know what you're looking for, have those Hitchcockian elements. Not the suspense, but the camera movement, the use of sound, more the style as opposed to subject matter. But even thinking of directors at the time, you like I like everyone I could think of, like, they could do one of those movies, maybe even maybe even a couple of them, but they wouldn't be the same movie. And then there's the fact that you need someone who can step in, who has the right mix of actual talent to back up the ego to go, I can step into his shoes, while also having the skills to back it up. You could probably find directors who had the skills, but not the ego. You could find directors who had the ego, but not the skills. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was one of the things I've been thinking about today. God, this movie still holds up. I mean, there are elements, certainly, the cross-dressing and whatnot. There's certainly certain elements that haven't aged well, but the treatment of mental illness and whatnot. But as a movie, it still works. Like, as a suspense film, as a horror film, still works. The tension gets ratcheted up. The feeling of dread. Even when you've seen it a million times, and you know where it's going, it even, like, when you allow it to, and you sit back and you just watch, and you see her watching the money and all that jazz, and you see them together, her and her boyfriend, and, like, and her performance, Janet Leigh's performance, is so right on, so perfect. So is Anthony Perkins. His performance is amazing. She feels like a star. She looks like a star, and you forget what's gonna happen. And you go with the cinematography, you go with the storytelling, the pacing, and you're like, oh, you forget. No matter how many times you've seen it, you just forget what it's actually about, and you go, I hope she gets away with this. I hope she's all right. oh, I think she needs to get off the road, you know. And then when it takes that turn, you're like, oh, you're still surprised every time. You know it's coming. And that's the deal. That's the skill, right? It's not to not see the turn. It's to, I can see this. I can go again, watch it again, know it's coming, still be shocked by it, still be amazed by it. So good. So amazing. But like so many artists are troubled. Oh, I like this background. Oh. Oh, man. I love this bit at the end when Sam Loomis and Marion's sister are trying to investigate. We've already lost Arbogast, the private detective who's looking for the money. I love the fact that the businessman who was waving the money in Marion's face never gets it back. I love that. It's just a little thing. Oh, I don't know, man. Like, interesting thing. So, in one of his last interviews, Hitch was asked about movies he enjoyed, and one of the last movies he saw, one of the last movies he talked about was one of my favorite movies of all time, Smokey and the Bandit, and I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. Like, this guy who made these brilliant films, that this person who made just perfect cinematic art. And what does he love? Trash. I love it, man. Yeah. I wonder what. It's definitely not a movie he would have made, but there are elements in it. Like, we remember Buford T. Justice chasing the bandit. Well, he's not actually chasing the bandit. He's only chasing the bandit not because of he's making a run with a beer that isn't sold outside of that that isn't sold out on this side of this side of Texas at the time. That's the plot. Like, they're not running illegal booze. It's just not sold on the East Coast. It's not sold in Georgia. They even they leave the money. They don't. No one's there at the warehouse when they get there to help them load. I think it's for budgetary reasons, but they pay for it and whatnot. But so it's not like they stole the booze. They don't steal the beer. They don't steal the Coors. That's what they're getting. They're getting Coors, right? So, it's buying it is legal. It's just, and transporting it's legal. It's just where they're transporting it to that's illegal. But that's not why they're being chased. That's not why Buford T. Justice is after them. He's after them because Bandit picks up the wrong hitchhiker. So, I could see where you could turn that. It's not quite wrong man accused, but, it is a guy who's, being pursued by the hands of justice. And, I could see that little bit of Hitchcockian storytelling subject matter, but really the fact that this by the way, I think the Smokey and the Bandit is a piece of brilliance of just popcorn cinema. Is a brilliant piece of popcorn cinema. But I know, like, and that's the thing, like, but, like, really, it's not too different. Because in Lesser Hands, this movie right here that I'm watching, this movie that is considered a classic and is and like, it's considered a cinematic masterpiece. But in Lesser Hands, it's just trash cinema. And it's true of a lot of his films. It's like it's a very similar thing as with Spike Lee or Tarantino or even Spielberg or Lucas, or Scorsese. So many of the greats. Lesser budget, lesser talent, but most especially lesser budgets. And you go from artist to schlock. The line between William Castle and Alfred Hitchcock is very thin. Like the very, very, very thin. Like I mean, like, as a director, Roger Corman has an accomplishment not too many other directors. I actually don't know of any director who could say this. As a director, not as a producer, because he's produced many more movies than he has directed. But as a director, he directed 100 films without losing a penny. And I don't mean like they were all hits, or what have you, or they certainly weren't all true classics. Most of them are cult classics. Most could be, described as. But as a director, he made 100 movies without losing a penny. That means that each and every one of them came in at or below budget. No matter what his budget was. I just got paid. Hi, everybody. That's actually pretty cool. Like, I really don't know of too many people who can lay that claim. I don't know of any other director that could lay that claim. And a good chunk of that 100 films are some of my favorite films of all time, and are definitely some of the greatest exploitation films of all time. Love this. This is where the young Miss Crane is in the house. Norman has realized that Mr. Loomis was keeping him busy. He's now broke away from him. He's managed to get into the house. She's still able to hide. And she's about to find Mother. And there we go. This is actually the only scene where you actually see Anthony Perkins in the dress. Every other time, you saw Mother, it was never him. It would be, I believe it was like one of Hitch's assistants. A couple of times it was different people would be dressed as Mother. You never, until the end, the very end, you never saw him physically in the dress. It's just that one scene. And that's another piece of brilliance. Like, it's part of what makes them feel like they are two separate people, when in fact they are not.
Did he kill my sister?
No. Well, now look, if you're trying to lay some psychiatric groundwork for some sort of plea, this fellow would like your cop. The psychiatrist doesn't lay the groundwork. He merely tries to explain it.
But my sister is.
Yes,
I love this psychiatrist.
I'm a private investigator, too. If you drag that swamp somewhere in the vicinity of the motel, you... have you any unsolved missing persons cases on your books? Yes, 2 young girls. If he confessed to, like I said, the mother. Now, to understand it the way I understood it, hearing it from the mother, that is, from the mother half of Norman's mind, you have to
Oh, thank you guys.
at the time when Norman murdered his mother and her lover. Now, he was already dangerously disturbed. Had been ever since his father. His mother was a clinging, demanding woman. And for years, the two of them lived as if there was no one else in the world. Then, she met a man. And it seemed to Norman that she threw him over for this man. And then pushed him over the line and killed him. Matricide is probably the most unbearable crime of all. Most unbearable, it's honestly. So, he had to erase the crime, at least in his own mind. He stole her daughter. A weighted coffin was buried.
Mhm.
He hid the body in the fruit cellar. He even treated it to keep it as well as it would keep. And that still wasn't enough. She was there. But she was a corpse. So he began to
Love.
give her half his life, so to speak.
Love the explanation.
Both personalities carry on conversations. At other times, the mother half took over completely. He was never all Norman. But he was Falkland's only.
Oh, Mother.
And because he was so pathologically jealous of her, he assumed that she was as jealous of him.
Him.
Therefore, if he felt a strong attraction to any other woman, the mother's side of him would go wild. When he met your sister, he was touched by her, aroused by her, he wanted her. That set off the jealous mother, and mother killed the girl.
Why, she wouldn't even hurt a fly.
He was sweet. And like a dutiful son, covered up all traces of the crime, he was convinced his mother had committed. Why was he dressed like that? Transvestite? Not exactly.
Nope. Not exactly.
Women's clothing in order to achieve a sexual change or satisfaction is a transvestite. But in Norman's case, he was simply doing everything possible to keep alive the illusion of his mother being alive. And when reality came too close, danger or desire threatened that illusion. He dressed up, even to achieve what he thought. He'd walk about the house, sit in her chair, speak in her voice. He tried to be his mother. And, now he is. Now that's what I meant when I said I got the story from him. You see, when the mind houses two personalities, there's always a conflict, a battle. In Norman's case, the battle is over. And the dominant personality is won. And the $40,000? Who got that? The swamp.
Go. Add. And the, sit and stare. Birds. Fly. I heard a fly. Oh, it's so fucking brilliant. Oh. No.
I've been a cop for 22 years.
So it's ooh, the birds. Oh, Marnie. Oh, I haven't seen that in forever. Oh, the birds. That's good. Thing. Oh my God, that's a good one. Marnie, man. That's a good movie. Think I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna end this. Well, I truly haven't seen Heat in forever. Heat's a great movie. I think I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna end this. Love you guys. Have a good night.